Go?
Yep.
Oh, okay. What's going on? What's going on here? I'm James Kosakowski from the Practical Self-Defense Training Center in Waterbury, Connecticut. So, what exactly did you want to...
What made you get into martial arts aside from your dad?
Okay. I basically got into martial arts because, I grew up doing it ever since I was like 4 years old. My dad kind of just brought me up, started training me. I kind of always had a passion for it, though. It's already in my blood because of my dad, but at the same time, I always wanted to pursue going pro. At the end of the day, I want to really end up in like a high-level organization, the big stage like Bellator or the UFC. So that's kind of my end goal right there. I'm just kind of working my way up to it right now. I'm in the amateur scene right now, winning fights. I'm 3-0 right now, and I'm just working my way up the ranks.
How did you manage to get into the what's it called, amateur?
Yep.
The amateur scene. How'd you manage to get into all that?
Well, I started off with AKBF Fight League, and I was fighting under John Carlo and Michael Culp there. But I started to branch off. I started meeting other people. I met Nick Newell, Roger Denton, and Roger Denton kind of helped me find a lot of fights. He's over in Bridgeport. And I started going under different organizations like Premier FC and most recently Reality Fighting, which is like a huge stage that's not huge, but it gets your name out there. I've gotten a lot of contacts since then, and I'm really working my way up the ranks now.
What is Reality Fighting?
Reality Fighting, it's an organization run under Kip Collar and Joe Cuff. They usually have their shows in Uncasville, Connecticut, over at the Mohegan Sun.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
That sounds fun. And
yeah, it's really good.
You got to be there.
Yeah, the one in January. I have another one coming up June 3rd for Mohegan Sun, so anybody who wants to come out, I'm going to have tickets and everything. The fight hasn't been finalized yet, but it's going to be soon.
So what's your preferred style?
Preferred style? I consider myself a Jeet Kune Do martial arts. Jeet Kune Do is kind of a philosophy, but it's also a style in the way that it basically combines what works for you, using no way is way, using whatever works for the particular person. For me, consider myself more of a grappler, but I work my striking even more so than my grappling so that I'm on a different level with both. So.
Okay, so what will be what is your opinion about MMA versus traditional martial arts?
MMA versus traditional martial arts, okay. Well,
what's the main difference?
Well, traditional martial arts, usually when people say traditional martial arts, they usually focus around like Taekwondo. Usually Muay Thai isn't even considered a traditional martial art, even though it kind of is. It all branches down to a traditional martial art of some sort. Each martial art is tied together in some way, pretty much. It seems like each one kind of like steals something from each style, but when you say traditional martial arts, you're thinking of Taekwondo, Tang Soo Do, you're thinking of karate. When someone thinks of MMA, they're thinking of, let me slam this guy ground and pound. They're thinking of like that sort of thing. But MMA has kind of become its own style. It seems like everybody kind of fights the same in these organizations. It seems like a lot of these people I fight amongst, but a lot of people that I notice that are on the same cards as me, it seems like they all just, it's either they're brawlers, they're just wrestlers, or they're just this. It seems like a lot of people can't tie it all together. Mm-hmm. So the way my dad teaches me, he has me work everything. I'm working all the techniques of Jeet Kune Do. I'm working all the techniques of Muay Thai. I'm working my boxing. I'm working my grappling. I'm constantly working everything. So we really tie it all together.
That sounds really complicated to learn all at once.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different, but it's years of experience. It's not like I started out a year ago and started training. It takes a long time. That's why it really, really aggravates me when you got these people who are like, oh yeah, I did a month of this or a month of that. It takes years to really get to that level mm-hmm. where you could unconsciously pull off the techniques. Like there's a conscious level and there's an unconscious level in martial arts, and it seems like a lot of people can't unconsciously pull off the techniques. They think about it too much rather than feel. You ever hear that mm-hmm. Phrase by Bruce Lee? Don't think, feel.
I've been told I think too much.
Yeah.
I've been told by my sensei
yeah.
and my grandmaster that I think way too much when it comes to my reactions. Because I see so many different openings for an attack, mm-hmm. it's sometimes hard for me to choose which is the most appropriate. Mm. So, like, for example, when I have lost during, like, sparring was because I was thinking too much. But when I'm in judo, and that's more fluid for me, yep. and I just go by what I feel, and it ends up being more comfortable for me.
Well, that's the thing. It's all about, you work a technique to death. You work it 10,000 times, 20,000 times, and you get really good at it, and then all of a sudden it becomes muscle memory. You can pull off the technique. But it's also a mental thing, too. You got to have the confidence to actually pull off the technique. So,
what was the hardest thing for you to learn?
The hardest thing for me to learn. Honestly, I mean, just being relaxed in general, because when I was little, when I would go into the ring, I'd get really, really, really nervous, because it's obviously when you're having like hundreds of people watching you, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I could do this, but you go out there and you just do it, I mean, and after fighting for so many years, now I go up there and it's like nothing. You go in there, you relax, you remain poised, and you do what you got to do.
All right, so tell us more about your achievements in the martial arts world so far.
Basically, I mean, I've won a lot of Naga. Naga also owns reality fighting, like I was saying before, but Naga is a grappling tournament, North American Grappling Association. I've done many of those over the years. I competed in Grappler's Quest a few times. Like I was telling you before about AKBF Fight League, I fought for them for years, so definitely got to shout them out because they really helped me out and really built my career, I would say. They kind of brought me up. I had a lot of boxing fights under them. I had a lot of kickboxing fights, a lot of grappling matches under them, and most recently I've been 3-0 in MMA because basically that's what the record I really go off of. I mean, I've had a lot of past experience, but at the end of the day, MMA is really what matters to me now. I'm trying to get my rank up there, so I'm currently 3-0 in mixed martial arts. I was supposed to have a fight February 25th, but I had to pull out because I had dehydration issues from weight cutting. I was cutting down to 155, and now we made the move. We're going to move up to 170 because it's just become too much to cut.
So what is the ranking in MMA? We know that in karate you get a stripe when you complete a kata. In judo, it's up to your teacher to determine your level of skill to get a stripe. So in MMA, how do you guys do your ranking? Do you guys use belts with stripes?
We don't use belts. Like some schools, like most schools, if they're under Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they're doing like a belt ranking system. So it goes anywhere from, you got your white, you got your blue, you got your purple, your brown, your black. So you have all those belts. I know Muay Thai does their own ranking system. We personally do a Jeet Kune Do ranking system. I am an apprentice instructor in Jeet Kune Do. Actually, no, Actually, recently in January, I got my first associate level in Jeet Kune Do. So.
And what is that?
Basically, I can instruct. I'm fully capable of instructing Jeet Kune Do martial arts, but I also had gotten it 2 years ago, so I was already able to teach 2 years ago. I've been teaching. I do private lesson work. I also help my dad teach his class. In fact, I'm going to be teaching tonight because he's not going to be able to make it. So, been teaching, just teaching, training, constantly training. I train like twice a day, and that's kind of how you get your ranking from there. It's just constantly working, training, and.
So your ranking is a little bit more complicated than karate ranking.
Yeah, it's definitely more complicated. Like I notice with a lot of karate people, it seems like a lot of kids. I notice like they'll be like 11 years old and be like, oh, I'm a black belt, and I think to myself like, how does a 11-year-old have a black belt? I mean, it takes years and years to really master the moves. It seems like people want to rank based off of the amount of time you've been doing it rather than the work you put in, which I disagree with. I think that you should really be fully prepared before.
I call those McDonald's martial arts.
Yeah. No, it's kind of like, I want to call it like a McDojo. It just seems like there's like a lot of McDojos out there. It's like, oh, you got this school that's just like this school that's just like this school. It's like all the schools are the same, But not all schools, I'm not saying all schools. There's a lot of gyms that are really good out there, but there's also a lot of gyms that I noticed that are just mainstream and doing what everyone else is doing, so.
So what would be the main difference between your quality of teaching versus somebody else's quality of teaching? Do you feel you're more, what's the word I'm looking for, interactive with your students?
We're interactive, but what we do is we train based off of realism, where we're not training to do just forms. We're training for like a real life scenario. So when I'm doing my movements, we also spar at the end, whether it's isolated sparring, like we do a lot of different sparring things, like for example, we'll do like jab versus jab. We'll have one person and you get your reflexes to dodge the jab and actually land your jab back, go to the body, go to the head, and you work these kind of scenarios and you get really good at pulling off specific things. So
do you have a favorite move?
A favorite move?
Like what's your token move?
Kesikatami. I really
what
like
is that?
Kesikatami. It's a position from judo, actually.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a position. I pull off a lot of my submissions from there. But I mean, I'm also well-rounded in all areas. I could take the back. I go from cross body. I use what we call the pin flow. Actually, it's a 5-move pinning system that we do. And we have a lot of submission. We have a chain of submission flow off there from our catch wrestling, from our sambo, judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and etc.
So your style of MMA is a mix of what?
It's a mix of a lot of things. We do what my dad calls IGS, it's integrated grappling system. So we have judo, we have sambo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, catch wrestling, and he even blends some of his Filipino martial arts, and there's some dumag, some of everything actually, shoot wrestling. So we have a lot of different stuff in there.
Can you explain what grappling is?
Grappling is basically submission wrestling. So it's wrestling, but you're also adding submissions to it. Transitions, sweeps, throws, everything. You got everything based right into one system.
Okay.
We also do Jeet Kune Do. The Jeet Kune Do is also mixed with Muay Thai. Jeet Kune Do, of course, obviously could be a lot of different things, but it's basically what Bruce Lee did is he took stuff from Western boxing. He had a background in Wing Chun. He even took stuff from fencing, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
European fencing?
Yes, I believe so. Or it might have been Asian fencing. I'm really not sure. But he had, I believe his brother was a champion in fencing, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly what my dad said, but he actually took some moves from fencing, and he also took from all sorts of different styles, even Muay Thai, and combined them together into what he believed was a perfect system. So.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Do you guys do weapons training here?
Yeah, my dad actually does Kali, which is basically It's a Filipino weapons system, and I personally don't do it because I just want to put my full focus into the mixed martial arts because I want to be really, really well rounded in that. When I'm older, I'm definitely going to delve into the Kali, the Kung Tao. He also teaches Kung Tao, which is also a deadly Filipino martial arts system.
I've heard of Kung Tao.
Yeah, Filipino martial arts it's on another level, man. Yeah. It's savage.
It is savage. It's very savage.
Savage, yeah. Like if I had to
savage.
describe it, it's savage. So definitely can't hate on that one. But there's a lot of different techniques that work in that system that would work even for MMA. You could combine some moves, not all of them. Obviously, you can't eye gouge, you can't hit the balls, you can't do certain things. But whatever is legal, you could utilize it. If it's there.
Have you had to use your MMA skills outside of the ring?
I actually haven't.
No?
There was a few times when I was in school where a kid would be like, oh, like let's have a wrestling match or something, and I'd wrestle them, and a lot of these guys don't know the techniques, so you just take them down and you get them, you just get them right to the ground right away and do your thing. The thing is, when somebody's not training, it's pretty easy to subdue them. You could really just take them down and control them from there. So
you held back.
Yeah.
Do you think that MMA helped you with anger issues, if you ever had any?
Yeah, really. I was just telling him, actually, when you're punching the bag, like it really just takes out your anger. You punch in the mitts, takes out your anger, but it doesn't really take out your anger. It kind of like puts you in a form of peace. You're kind of like at peace of mind. So
how do you feel when you're in the ring? Tell us about the ring experience.
It's a crazy experience, man. Like you got hundreds, if not thousands, of people watching you. Like with reality, that's live streamed and everything. So there's a lot of people watching you. It's basically like the biggest stage I've fought on, and you really have a lot of people that are really watching you, seeing what you're about to do. You just go out there and do your thing. I kind of try not to focus on the crowd at all. I try to focus on just what I got to do and why I'm there.
How big of an adrenaline rush is it? It's
pretty big adrenaline. Once the fight starts, you got nothing. It's just you're in the fight. You're in the zone. If you're thinking by that point, you're already messed up. You really got to just go out there and just react. That's literally what I do. I go out there and just use my training and just react to whatever happens. So
explain more of the thought versus reaction.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, when you sit there and think, obviously it takes time to think about what you're going to do. So really, you should fight based off of what you already know. Whatever you're used to doing, that's what you should react doing. Obviously, if someone's better than you, they're obviously you're just going to lose. In some way. If they have a move that you don't know, if you're not familiar with it, you might not be able to react to it the same way. And that's where the whole thing with Jeet Kune Do comes in. It's a lot of different movements that people aren't used to. So it kind of helps us when I'm in there.
So the ring is totally different from being outside.
Totally different.
Totally different.
Definitely totally different. I feel comfortable outside, but I also feel comfortable in there because I've been fighting for so many years.
Yeah.
We have a ring over there. I don't use it. We use it all the time, so I'm already used to kind of like fighting in that kind of setting, fighting in a cage setting as well because of the other gyms I train at. They have a cage, so it's pretty good though. Wow. It's all about being relaxed.
Being relaxed is important.
Yeah, being relaxed is very
important.
Body
and
mind. Calm. Yeah. It's all body and mind, man. You got to have the physical part of it. I'd say it's about like 80% conditioning, 20% technique. So you have to be conditioned. There's a lot of people that go out there. You could have all the technique in the world, but if you gas out, where's the technique going to go?
And you can take a hit too, right? Because there's a lot of martial artists I know that cannot take a hit.
I mean, I'd say I could take a decent. I've been hit by some light heavyweights, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
but I try to actually, when I spar, I try not to get hit at all, because when you get hit, you're actually just doing more damage to your body. I mean, obviously nobody wants to get hit. I noticed some people had kind of like ego spar. They go out there and they might tap their face like, oh, hit me harder or something. I don't do any of that. We basically focus on just light sparring, light touch, just find the techniques, and then you could train another day, because you don't want to get injured in training. There's a lot of people that end up training too hard and they get injured all the time.
Yeah. So how is the sparring done here? That you just said it's light sparring. So
yeah, we do very, very light sparring sessions. I mean, we're
no physical contact sparring.
Oh, we do physical contact.
Okay.
It's not like point sparring.
There is a difference then.
Yes.
So what's the difference between that?
Because we're connecting. I mean, when we're going to the body, the legs, whatever, we do hit hard. But when you're going to the head, you don't want to hit hard, because you don't. Why cause brain damage for no reason? We're not in the fight. You should save your wars for when they count.
Yeah.
A war in the gym against some random Joe Schmo that's not gonna mean anything. So why cause brain damage for no reason?
Yeah.
But I've had people come in and they want to bang hard, and then you just hit them hard back. I mean, that's just kind of at the end of the day what you got to do. But I try. I mean, it happens once in a while though. Sometimes you get your people who want to ego spar, and sometimes you have your friends that want to ego spar, and then but it's more fun in that way, because then you kind of test yourself. When you go to other gyms, you kind of end up hard sparring sometimes anyways, because someone always ends up hitting hard, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. So for all the beginner martial artists out there and people who want to go back to martial arts, what's your advice to them?
Advice, just keep training, honestly. Like, when you're training, try not to think, like I was saying. Try to get the reaction so that you could just feel the movements instead of actually just thinking about what you're going to do to react. And honestly, just train. Like, a lot of people, that's the first step, is just showing up. A lot of people don't show up. So,
and try not to get discouraged.
Yeah, that's the thing.
A lot of people get discouraged.
Yeah, it's a thing. I mean, for some people, they don't want to compete. They want to just do this to have fun. Like more casual martial artists, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it's not made for everybody. Yeah, that's why there's so many things to do. I mean, you can play soccer, you can play football. It depends whatever you want to do. I love martial arts. I love competing. So that's what I want to do with my life. I want to become a pro mixed martial artist. I want to go into a big stage like UFC, Bellator. And Bellator actually wanted to sign me twice, so I had declined both times because I want to get more amateur experience. So I'm just kind of working off that.
That was a good move.
What's that?
That was a good move.
Yeah. No,
it's always better to fine tune your art.
That's the thing. You want to make sure that you're completely ready. I don't want to be at a level where I'm just going to be another Joe Schmo on the card. I want to be championship level. You got to have that mindset where you want to be championship level.
You want to be Hokage.
Exactly.
Let's be Hokage.
Exactly. That's the thing.
All right. So again, what's the name of your school?
Practical Self-Defense Training Center. We call it the PSTTC for short, and we're located over in Waterbury, Connecticut, Hamilton Avenue. So.
All right. Perfect.
Check us out.